we went into like
we can bring it
the
back.
tragedy that is the black man being out of the household and what that does to the thinking of black men, and then how that's related to relationship between black women and black men.
Yes, and I think it's key.
Is it just black women and black men? Because now I want to talk about like
because hypergamy for me is a white woman. Okay?
A what? Say it again.
A Caucasian woman. If you want to talk about hypergamy from the male perspective, that is 1000% what that means to me. And I've seen it in my grad school. I've seen it in community. I've seen it over and over again. That the status of a man, if he's going for status, that it can't look like us. We're successful, we've reached our prime in terms of our careers, but yet we're just not good enough.
I don't think a man will ever care about y'all status. Like, we don't care if you're Oprah or if we come across you working at McDonald's. What we do care about is y'all attitudes. Let's keep it funky.
So are we saying
we aggressive?
No, wait. So what are we saying about a non-African American woman's attitude that would seemingly make them more attractive than an African American woman?
I think what's really sexy about women is to have a strong degree of femininity. And there's components of that have been lost within our community. And I think a lot of it has to do with the strength that it takes of a single woman to raise a family.
But why isn't strength and femininity the same? Like, why can't someone being strong, why does someone being strong negate her femininity?
I think you could be strong in your femininity.
Yeah.
I think a man doesn't want to be dating a woman with masculine traits.
What are masculine traits?
Yeah.
Masculine trait
Those
is
are also a relative, but go ahead.
Say it again?
Those are relative. I mean, like, who made up masculine trait? Like, who made up that definition?
Biology.
Because there is a spectrum. There's non-binary. I mean, this can get so deep because if you identify as masculine or male, you may not identify with the traits that come along with that. You can be a transgender. It's such a spectrum there that I can't say that, oh, well, I'm a feminine woman.
I think we have to level set for the viewing audience.
Well, let's
level set
okay.
so we know what we're talking about, because I definitely think in 2019, masculine and feminine, those definitions are super fluid. And they are definitely not
skewed.
The traditional, which I think is where you're coming from.
That's exactly where I'm coming from.
The traditional definitions of masculinity.
You seem like you guys got triggered off of that. So let's talk about it real quick, because we need a level set, because I think what the left has done is said, listen, we're all equal. We're all the same. There's so many instances.
Politics?
Yes.
Okay.
There's so many instances that I see, and I don't know if you know, I don't watch TV, I don't watch news like that, but there's so many instances that I've seen of like, why is this happening? When they try to combine genders into one sport, right? You get transsexual fighters fighting women who were born a man, has man DNA, man genetics, man biology, man
So you mean like assigned at birth? They were male at birth?
And because they're taking medication, man hands, right? Like, and because they're taking medication, can now do a female sport. And you see these young women getting knocked the hell out, right? Like slept, unconscious, right? And you see in other cases of like of track and field. I think that that's ridiculous. I think that, yes, this is 2019, we're about to go to 2020, and there's examples of how we need to innovate and think through societal structures, norms, right? Which is another component of why I think like marriage doesn't work going into 2020. That'll be a totally other video. We'll get back in there.
Had this conversation. We have to come back for that, because I think you triggered me then, and I think we ended up.
But thinking through the idea of femininity and masculinity, I do think that there's some traditional roots. If you want to call back marriage, there's some traditional roots of having a head and a rib. And I know you guys just went to church today.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's some so if you take a black woman who has masculine traits and you
traditional masculine traits.
Listen, I don't want to be in competition.
Because here's the thing. I think sports is. I
don't want to be in competition.
I love your conversation about sports, and I think that's valid. But I think when we get back to the interplay between male and female and what that means in a relationship, like physical stuff we're not talking about. What we're talking about is the ability to communicate. What we're talking about is the ability to say no, the ability to stand in my truth, the ability to allow you to lead, but the ability also to not let you walk all over me. I think there's a delicate balance, and I think that some men might feel like it's masculine, but at the end of the day, it's really just
it's a sliding scale, which is why
a balanced individual.
It's a really hard conversation. It's a really hard conversation to have if you don't have specific examples, because we all have different examples or thoughts in our mind or definitions of masculinity versus femininity. So it's really hard unless we anchor ourselves in an example and say, is that masculine or is that feminine?
All right, so let's anchor ourselves in an example, and then we can discuss from there.
Let's discuss roles.
Yeah.
So, like, what the role of a woman in a marriage?
No, but tell me.
Tell me.
No, let's go back to a non-African American woman being more attracted than an African American woman because of her femininity. Right. Give me some specific examples of that. Like, what does that look like? In contrast to your experience with an African American woman.
Well, I think
what you've seen from an African
what happened is that I think there was an assertion that black men look at more white women because of their social status, and what I'm saying
and you
is,
were saying no. You think it's more of attitude.
That's my opinion. I think it has
let's talk about
much more to do with attitude. Because there's a lot of black men that are tired of arguing with you. There's a lot of black men that are like that to me is much more of a masculine trait and energy to do, is to have two dudes arguing together. I think there has to be, between the dynamic of the two, there's a pouring into of each other. Right? Like, if you believe in the traditional sense of the biblical order, right? Like, if you believe in all those things, then you believe that the man will be head of household if you're married. That's what I'm saying. If you're married, and then he's head of household, and the woman is the rib. So he's making the decisions, and then she is nurturing or pouring into him to help him make the best decisions. But she has not chosen him unless she believes that he can make the best decisions.
Capable enough to make the best decisions for her.
Exactly. But there's examples of men just deselecting out of the culture because they come up to what we've talked about earlier. Like, I'm just trying to be a nice guy. I'm just trying to be a good guy, and I'm treating you well. But you're going for the Chad and the Tyrones within your early 20s. And I'm sitting over here, I'm focused on me, I'm sitting there to improve me. But you have chose to go with the total opposite that will never treat you right.
Sure, so that's a
But
choice.
I've been a good guy to you throughout your early 20s, and you didn't show me respect.
So how are we acting aggressive?
Right, I'm trying to think. Like, you're talking about a choice that we made.
Because you're telling me that a white woman is essentially submissive.
Wait. Start over again.
So are you saying that what was our response to you? Because was a white woman more submissive to you? Or, what was our response? Because you're not telling me, how we acted in the context of, you're leading, I'm making more money than you, I'm African American, and I have no say-so in the decisions that we make in our household? What is the scenario?
So give me that scenario, because I haven't dealt with this. I don't date white women. So give me a scenario and then let's talk about it.
What I hear you saying is that black men are tired of African American women because we are combative. We challenge them. So Caucasian women, counter to that, are a little bit more submissive, and they tend to kind of roll with the punches. They may not be as accomplished as we are as African American women, but they are submissive. So are you saying that takes precedence, and so a black man will want that over an accomplished African American woman who is opinionated and just is submissive, but is well learned, well read, well accomplished, and wants to have.
But I think that's
keep going.
A relationship with her husband that, yes, I'm submissive to you, but I'm also not just dumb. I have things to add to the relationship, and I found that African American men find that extremely attractive, and that's their attraction to us.
Listen, so I find it really attractive to be challenged.
Absolutely.
There is clearly a difference. There's clearly a difference in doing it in a way where I feel emasculated if I'm challenged versus respected. And that I feel like that has been lost sight of in our women to a degree. It hasn't lost me where I don't date black women. But I understand when men say that, especially when you see you read in the news and you see like the college, graduation rates are much higher over black women than black men. So then you have much more educated black women that are dating men with less education, which would then, she then questions the man's decision making more because of this education thing, right? So then that happens as well.
I actually don't find that. I find that we're going to Caucasian men.
Listen, it's 2020.
We are certainly being encouraged.
We're not going.
I don't know that we're actually going, but we're
Yeah.
certainly being encouraged, which is a disservice because most of us want to be with a black man.
We
want
want
to build a
love,
black
for
family.
sure.
Yeah.
But we are absolutely being encouraged to, like, the same as a black man has deselected himself out of the culture.
Yeah.
We're being encouraged to do the same thing. But I want to get back to the, right, like the premise of this conversation was what women need to change. And then, but we got into a conversation about how you as a black man respect it and you get it and you understand it.
Well, I'm also really educated.
Exactly. So why isn't
Absolutely.
it? So why isn't it?
Right.
Why is there never a conversation about how the black man should level up?
Right.
I think most of the time when the black man is feeling some sort of inferiority by the
Listen, I try to have this
the
conversation.
strength of a
what's
black
interesting?
woman is certainly sometimes, maybe most of the time.
I just had this
because
conversation.
of their insecurity, not Aisha's insecurity.
I got your comment.
Yeah.
I just had this conversation, and I think it also goes back to the discussion of privilege. I have been afforded things in my life as a black man that has allowed me to enter into different arenas that, like, we talk about, like, my pops raised me, and I am really happy that my pops raised me into being a man, like the man that I am today, because he taught me things that, it doesn't mean that a woman can't teach these things to you, but I think the way that a man can teach it to a young boy is ridiculously different.
You're more receptive of it, I think, too, as well.
And that is a component of my privilege, right? Like, some people would argue out there that because of the color of my skin, and we can have an entire goddamn argument about that, because I don't think that's as important, but we can talk about that. But because of the color of my skin and it's closer to white skin, then there's a degree of colorism, there's a degree of acceptance because I'm a little bit more accepted, right? Like, so there's things, so people are at not only a different life disadvantage, right? Like, this is like starting life, if you play in a video game on easy versus medium versus hard, people have to deal with that, but then they also have to deal with inherent biases as well. So, and this is me, as I'm talking to you right now, this is me coming to an understanding of this, because literally like 2 or 3 weeks ago, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was having a conversation on a live stream. Shout out to you, Black Ram. I was just having a conversation on a live stream, and I didn't like, I wanted, because I want our black men to soar past, and I want them to, and I feel like everything that I have done to reach where I'm at, anyone can do that as well. But I do think that there's certain components of my story which makes it more appropriate for me. However, I still want to hold them as accountable as possible. Because although you may not have had the things that they have lacked, I still think anything is possible in America, more so than a lot of other countries on this planet.
Absolutely.
So I feel like what you said about just like statistics, like the inevitable statistics of African American women are at a higher rate, like educated at a higher rate. We're in college. There's more of us in college. There's more of us succeeding from a professional perspective. I think there's a conversation to be had about, in general, like our community, making sure we understand like where our black men are in the spectrum of hierarchy in society, right? And like, how do we not necessarily change our attitudes or change our disposition or like lessen our standards, but how do we communicate in a way that pours into our black men versus making them feel more inferior than what they already do feel, just by the inevitable nature of we're more educated, maybe probably we're making more money, just given the probability statistics, right? Normal statistics. But then I also like, I also have to say to our black men, like, you need to use us as your, like, you know what I mean? Like, as your barometer, level up. Like, allow me to encourage you and be your motivation to level up.
Well, here's the problem.
So how do we strike that delicate balance?
Black men have lost faith in What you're referring to right now, like a woman who will stay with you to help you level up, is what we refer to as unicorns. Unicorns don't exist, and if they do, they're extremely rare. The problem is
that hypergamy?
I'm about to testify.
No, it's not hypergamy.
Like
it's anti-hypergamy.
How is it that someone, because if a black woman has a status or a career or a profession that's above where their counterpart is, how is that not hypergamy?
Because that black woman will never select that black man that is in a higher caste or social order. She won't. Hypergamy is always selecting above.
So why wouldn't you select me? That's above.
It's like reverse hypergamy?
Like how is that not like...
I think a dude, if he can, he should, if he has the opportunity.
That is hypergamy.
But the problem is too.
That's the difference.
But the problem is too.
We don't accept.
Hold on. The problem
is accept the lesser woman.
Right. That's the problem.
The lesser man.
That's the problem.
I don't know if it's a problem, but I think that's the reality.
You just nailed it.
I don't know.
The black woman won't select.
It's definitely the reality.
That's the reality. Is that you won't select an up and comer.
I think it's a spectrum. I've seen women do it.
I think
and
that.
I've seen them
They hit the wall.
Well, no, I don't hate the wall. I really hope our discussion about the wall is already on here because I can't repeat that. I just can't. The idea that we are not ride or die, I think we are. I was at a point. I was for a long time.
I think you have one good time.
You have
and
one
if
good time.
If you've exhausted my one time, and you come on the back end,
so the other man that may not get the same ride or die.
But we always do it. We always give the chance.
Done that.
We will always level you up.
There is always a moment in a black woman's life where she is going to ride or die, where she finds and sees the potential in a man, and she is going to work with him. But there is always a stopping point. And I'm sorry, like, why can't I have a end date?
And I feel like once you
experience
that, then you don't want to experience that again, and you feel like, no, I'm not doing that again.
I can't. Like, it's not even a choice. It's literally like I can't do it again.
Emotionally,
like my mental, my emotions, my spirit, my physical body. I cannot do any of that again. I don't have it. I really don't.
So, and then why are we?
And so that is what I encourage our black men to do, is understand a unicorn when they have one and when they see one, and then instead of leveraging their other opportunities, why don't they pour back into that woman? And then you don't get a whole bunch of Tierra and Olivia's who have made it and who are reaching a status that they have always dreamed about and are tired. Not even that we won't consider it or won't do it. Like, we've literally done it and are tired at this point.
But again, it's a cyclical cycle because, 80% of the women are going for the top 20% of the men, right? So when you go into that arena, you're dealing with someone who has a lot more options, who doesn't have time to worry about.
We don't go into those arenas.
But also, they're bad.
We don't go into those arenas.
Now,
he who finds a wife. I don't need to go into.
I'm talking about both y'all in the early 20s.
But let's talk about me in the early 20s, and let's talk about the man that was leveraging opportunities, who remains in my inbox, who now realizes that, oh, I probably should have taken her
a day late and a dollar short.
Oh, that's exactly what I want in a wife. Oh, that's exactly what I want in a mother of my children. Oh, it's a little too late. I've done a little too much damage. And so I think it works the other way around as well. Like, you're not talking to two girls who, like, haven't had success in the dating realm. Like, we have. And I've been in long relationships with people, and I have those same men that decided they wanted to leverage whatever they thought was greener, because I do truly believe in the 80-20 rule. Whatever was greener on the other side, you leverage that, and now you're salty. And I'm just gonna let you marinate in that salt, because I can't. Not because I'm choosing not to, because if I could, I probably would. But I cannot. Like, I just don't even have it. I don't have nothing left for that.
Well, the reason why you can let him marinate, and the reason why he's gonna stay there, is most likely because he's not focused. He's not where he needs to be.
Still?
Yes, still. He's just, he was probably a playboy in his early 20s. You was messing around that time. Everything was going good. Something happened, and he kind of Hey, I want you to come back in camera for this conversation.
I'm sorry, I need to take that swig, and I'm not taking the swig on the camera.
All right. So now he's a little bit older. Maybe he slowed down a little bit, and he's reaching back out to you. But then you look at his lifestyle, and you're not impressed because you worked on leveling up yourself in that meantime. Yeah. But now, what's gonna happen? You, like we're just saying, you look down at him, and you're like, and you look up there, and you're like, yep, I'm gonna go up there. Or if I
look here, like I can look here.
That's fine.
I can look here. I think at this point, it's not. But it's not because I never did that. And I think you were coming from a place where like we never decide to select. No, we do. Especially if we vibe well, especially if I feel like we have a good time together. Like, we've done that. We've been there and we've done that.
You do in your early 20s when you're experimenting. Now you don't. We've talked about this before.
But I think now I'm not necessarily looking up, though.
You're just looking. That's because your checklist has dropped.
But it's
so
changed.
It's like here.
It's not dropped.
Except for her. She's still.
To the 1,000%.
To the moon.
Through the roof.
Listen, I feel like I know your pizza is ready.
Yeah, let me
Let me sign off real quick. I don't know. I'm gonna make this into like 14 different videos.
Yeah.
Listen, we gotta keep going though, because your food's coming. We'll take a quick break and then we'll come back in here. I love the conversation though, ladies. We gotta continue this for the culture.
Absolutely.
All right?
For sure.
Listen, come on. She's ready to leave. Until next time, you two. Peace.